People don't resist change because they hate new ideas. They resist it because they don't trust the process, the leadership, or the outcome. And when you mandate transformation from the top down, you give them every reason not to trust the process. Building trust requires a completely different approach. It means positioning change as something valuable that teams actually choose to adopt, and proving it works with one strong implementation before asking others to buy in. Ultimately, it means creating a premium brand that people want to be part of, not one more initiative that damages morale. When you embed new practices into the systems and processes that your culture is built from, not just into training materials that people will forget, you make changing less difficult than staying stuck. This is how real transformation happens, not by force, but through earned trust. So if you want to make change irresistible in your organization, this video is for you. Organizational change fails more often than it succeeds, and the reason is simple. Most leaders treat change as something they can mandate from the top down. They announce a new initiative, send employees to training sessions, and expect transformation to follow. But people resist mandates. They drag their feet, pay lip service to new policies, and quietly return to the old ways of working as soon as leadership stops paying attention. The problem isn't that people hate change. It's that leaders are running their change initiatives upside down. They treat transformation like an order to be followed instead of a product they need to sell. And that makes all the difference. Think about the last product or service you chose to adopt in your own life. Maybe it was a new app, an online library or streaming service, or a productivity tool that you found really useful. You didn't buy it because your boss forced you to, but because it solved a problem and made your life easier, better, or more enjoyable. You chose it willingly because the value was clear. Cultural change in organizations works exactly the same way. If you want people to embrace a new way of working, you need to treat your change initiative with the same rigor and discipline you'd give to launching your top-performing product. That means clear ownership, strategic leadership, and real accountability. You need to treat your organization as a marketplace and your teams as customers who need to be convinced to buy. In this marketplace, your teams aren't obstacles to overcome. They're individuals who'll only buy your offering if it solves their problems so significantly that doing nothing feels like the tougher choice. Here's the counterintuitive part. The status quo is often failing. Systems are broken, processes are slow, and results often disappointing. But culture is powerful, and it keeps reinforcing the old way of doing things. People stick with what they know, even when it isn't working. So your job is to convince people that change is actually easier than continuing to fail. In other words, you need to make change irresistible. When you position transformation as something people choose rather than something they resist, adoption spreads organically, teams start talking to each other, success stories circulate, momentum builds. This isn't about manipulation or clever marketing tricks. It's about respecting the reality that knowledge alone never shifts an organization by a single degree. Meaningful change requires ongoing dialogue with your existing culture. It calls for a deep understanding of what people need, delivering meaningful value, and earning trust one team at a time. Starting small sounds like weak advice when you're trying to transform an entire organization. Leaders tend to want big, splashy results, so they launch large-scale initiatives. They roll out company-wide programs, host massive kickoff events, and announce sweeping changes that will affect every department at once. And they almost always fail. The problem isn't rooted in ambition. It's in trying to scale up before you've proven that your approach actually works. You end up delivering a partial experience to many teams instead of a complete experience to a few. It's like designing an entire house before you build a single chair that can hold weight. A better approach is to start comprehensively, but small. Choose one project team and give them everything they need to succeed. Provide expert guidance and all the resources they require to transform how they work. Then measure whether it actually delivers better outcomes. Can the chair hold weight, or does it collapse under pressure? Don't confuse scalability with thinking small. This is about proving that your concept works before you attempt to furnish the entire organization. Run your change initiative exactly like you would a new product launch. Give yourself a 1-year runway to get it right. Conduct research, gather input from your initial teams, optimize your processes, refine your offerings based on real feedback from real users. Working with complete project teams is essential here. Delivering change content outside the context of ongoing team projects creates 3 predictable failures. First, people attend training sessions, then forget the material, and never alter how they work. Second, they try to imagine how new concepts might apply to their projects, arrive at wrong conclusions, and close their minds to real change. Third, and worst of all, they get excited about new ideas and try to apply them without expert support. They mess it up, create negative outcomes, and then blame the change initiative itself. Intact teams avoid these failures because they apply new practices immediately to real work. They get expert guidance throughout the process. They deliver measurable business outcomes that prove your change's value. And when they succeed, they become your change ambassadors. You must do everything for these first teams. Support them fully. Celebrate their wins. Broadcast their success stories throughout the organization. Build proof that your approach delivers real results. Only then can you confidently scale to more teams, knowing that the furniture you're building will actually hold weight when people use it. You might think branding is a surface concern, something that matters for consumer products, but not for internal change initiatives. This assumption will sabotage your transformation before it even begins. Branding isn't optional. People want a brand they can trust, and trust drives both innovation and change. Without a strong brand identity, your change program becomes just another corporate initiative that employees will politely ignore. The first step is choosing the right name. You need something that can travel globally with minimum baggage. Avoid loaded terms that carry existing associations and inherited skepticism. Words like transformation, agile, or innovation come with years of broken promises attached. When people hear these terms, they remember every failed initiative that used the same language. Instead, choose a neutral name that becomes a vessel for your values. The name should be a blank slate that allows you to define what it means for your culture. You pour the meaning in through your actions, your results, and your reputation. Over time, the brand becomes shorthand for excellence in how teams work. Premium branding creates what you might call the country club effect. Exclusivity drives demand. When participation becomes a badge of distinction and achievement, teams start wanting in. When they see branded projects succeeding and hear success stories from their peers, they want to be part of something that signals quality and high standards. Your brand provides more than just a catchy name. It delivers consistency, weight, and scale. It unifies scattered projects and events under one identity, so people can see that real change is happening steadily and broadly across the organization. When diverse teams across different departments and locations all share the same brand, it demonstrates momentum and legitimacy. As your branded projects multiply, they'll span different user groups, technologies, and problem spaces. But they'll all share one common thread. They'll execute a new way of work under a recognized standard of quality. The brand connects them. This is where discipline becomes critical. You must protect your brand by saying no. When teams or projects want to join your program but don't meet your standards, decline them. When leaders ask you to spread resources thin across unbranded implementations, refuse. Diluting your brand across inconsistent work compromises both your results and your reputation. Premium brands maintain their value through selectivity. Your change initiative should work the same way. Training people in new skills won't transform your organization. This may sound counterintuitive, but it's one of the most important truths about change. You can send every employee through the best workshops in the world, and 6 months later, most of them will be working exactly the same way they always have. Culture thwarts competency every time. The reason is simple. Organizations are systems, and systems are built to reinforce the status quo. Your culture operates through interconnected processes, policies, and habits that all pull people back toward the old way of working. Even well-trained individuals can't sustain change when every organizational system around them reinforces old behaviors. This means transformation is fundamentally a cultural problem, not a technical one. Whatever change you're introducing, be it design thinking, agile methods, or any other approach, these are just the catalyst. The real work is changing the systems and processes that make up your organizational culture. So, understand how your existing culture reinforces itself. Look at your HR systems, your promotion criteria, and meeting structures. And don't skip budget processes or physical spaces. These aren't neutral backdrop elements, but active forces that either support or undermine change. If your systems still reward the old way of working, your change initiative will fail no matter how good the training is. That means you need to hack these systems. You need people on your change team who can embed new practices into the machinery of your organization. This calls for a specific team structure. You need content specialists who understand the new methods you're introducing. But you also need systems specialists who have the skills and credibility to modify HR policies, update career ladders, and change how tools get approved. They should also influence communication channels and decision-making processes. Think of it like a virus. The content specialists provide the transformative genetic material. The system specialists create the mechanisms that attach to your existing organizational processes and inject that change directly into how things actually function. This is hard work. It requires extraordinary resilience, emotional intelligence, and strategic patience. You'll face resistance from people who benefit from current systems and encounter bureaucratic obstacles at every turn. To overcome these barriers, you'll need to align people, practices, and places so they all pull in the same direction instead of fighting each other. Organizations naturally resist this kind of deep change because they're built to maintain stability. Your job is to loosen that grip without breaking things. You must rewire the system one connection at a time until the culture itself starts reinforcing the new way of working instead of the old. By now, you've positioned change as a product, started small with one strong team, built a premium brand, and begun hacking your organizational systems. But here comes another part that most leaders get wrong. They under-resource the change team itself. Organizations have immune systems. When you introduce something genuinely new, antibodies appear to attack it. Middle managers worry about losing control, and finance begins questioning the budget. Then legal starts raising concerns about liability, while HR flags policy conflicts. These aren't bad people trying to sabotage your work. They're professionals doing their jobs, which is to maintain stability and protect the organization from risk. Your change team will get crushed by these forces unless you build structural protection around it. First, you need executive sponsorship that provides real air cover, not just symbolic support. This means a senior leader who will defend your budget in tough conversations, override bureaucratic obstacles when necessary, and give your team the authority to say no to requests that would dilute your brand. Symbolic support looks like a leader who mentions your program in speeches but disappears when you face resistance. Real support is a leader who clears the path. Second, you need to resource your change initiative the same way you would resource a top-performing product. This isn't a side project that people work on when they have spare time. It requires dedicated team members with clear ownership, strategic leadership, and real accountability. If you treat change as less important than your revenue-generating products, everyone else in the organization will treat it that way too. Third, you need the right people on your change team. This work demands extraordinary resilience, emotional intelligence, and strategic patience. You need lions, not kittens. Look for people who can handle ambiguity, push back against pressure, and maintain focus when everyone around them is pulling in different directions. Technical expertise in your change method matters, but grit matters more. Fourth, build what you might call a leadership shell around your change team. This shell shields the team from organizational antibodies while still engaging the broader organization productively. The shell absorbs political heat. It translates between the change team and existing power structures. It creates space for your team to do deep work without constant interruption. Think about startups. The most successful ones protect their core team ruthlessly in the early days. They say no to distractions. They guard their focus. They ensure the team has everything needed to prove the concept before scaling. Your change initiative deserves the same protection. Without this protection, even the best change strategy will fail. Your team will spend all their energy fighting bureaucratic battles instead of delivering value to customer teams. But with it, change can happen and meaningful transformation can begin.